All right, welcome to the final installment of the R1 Stock 1000 build. Just wanted to show you the extra spare fairings. Just kind of mock them up to get the graphics on there. Obviously it's a different color scheme. Yes, those are bathtub stoppers, no shame. But getting the drain plugs installed in both belly pans. So this black one will be for the blue set. Kind of goes blue to black, little two-tone. So before I get into the final walkthrough of the bike, I'm going to pull this fairing off. We have one final modification to do to the bike. Facebook Marketplace coming in clutch again. Found this brand new Jet Prime switchgear and throttle assembly that we'll go ahead and put on the bike and keep the stock as a spare. But this will be a nice welcome addition to the bike. Get some nice buttons and an aluminum housing around the throttle and do away with the stock plastic module. Give you guys a peek into the new race trailer. This thing is going to be very nice this year. Just being more prepared with this class, having more spare parts and all the things. I had a 6x10 cargo trailer before, and I was already stuffed to the gills with that thing. So this is a welcome upgrade. Okay, we'll get the brake lever guard off first, and then it looks like a series of Phillips heads for the switchgear itself, the stock switchgear. Electronic throttle. There's no actual throttle cables. It is a electronically driven here through this. I guess that's either a motor or servo that tells the throttle bodies how much to open. So this is what we need to take out, put into the new housing. So we're gonna go ahead and slip the throttle off, figure out how to remove the electronic throttle assembly out of the stock housing. First, to do that, I'm gonna try and do this without taking the bar end off, or the clip-on rather, and just slip it off. But to do that, we're gonna have to disconnect everything. So it's these four here that came off, and it just goes in between the forks in the front of the frame and down. Easy enough. It looks like we may have to cut them out, which is not ideal, but they're these fancy little Titan only. So we either need to take a small drill bit and drill them out, which may be the best option. And then we're gonna have to cut this apart because obviously the wiring to the throttle, electronic throttle assembly needs to be retained. Okay, so as with most things, it was not as easy to get out as I thought. So yeah, I just broke it. Anyway, I ended up taking, my drill bits were not quite sharp enough to really get down in those. So I just took my snips and snipped a little piece off of each, and then just kind of wiggled it back and forth, and it broke out of there. So we don't really need the tabs that were on there holding it in. If we do need to reuse this, hopefully it will stay in place well enough with the stock housing that we could reuse this if we need to. Second order of business was getting this into the housing, which is fixed, and it doesn't actually like clamp over it. You have to slide this in, the throttle tube in first, the OEM one, and I was having a hard time doing that, but the ticket was I had to remove my grip, unfortunately. So yeah, I need to go buy some more domino grips, but basically you slide this guy in there with the stops here and here. I went ahead and separated the electronic throttle from the stock housing. Put the stock housing back together with the hardware, store it away for spare. Now we'll go ahead and install the throttle in the new housing the correct way, making sure we don't pinch the wires down here at the bottom. I want to make sure this doesn't come apart, so we'll just put the smallest dab of medium Loctite on here. Book calls for 10 Newton meters or foot-pounds, I forget, but not that tight. And we've got some Loctite in there, so this really shouldn't go anywhere. Okay, so this is the brake switch, which we won't use. It's more of a stock bike function. Around the stem, through the fork tube and triple. So before we get it all buttoned up, let's do a function check. There we have it. On. Fuel tank or fuel pump primed. And it will start with the button. Then we'll do our mode button, which is essentially replacing the wheel. And we're all good. Awesome. All right, there we go. All cleaned up. Zip tied. Got the brake switch zip tied up. Everything's all nice and clean. All right, so I decided to grab a spare clip-on. Save the old one, ready for, has a grip on it already, so if we need it to be faster in the pits for a change. Got the new domino grips in, just so we can make the grips match. Went ahead and finished bleeding the coolant system and drilled the bleed plug here and connected it to the drain plug. Finished up on the radiator cap, safety wired it off. We are all set. All right, finally walk around time. I can call this complete for now. This is what we're going to take to Barber here in a couple weeks for a shakedown and test everything out, make sure nothing falls off and everything's working semi-decently, and get a good setup going heading into our first race of the season. Let's go ahead and start with the front. We'll start up at the cockpit. Got the fresh domino grips on, safety wired. Got a Vortex clutch lever, Woodcraft buttons. Got a remote adjuster for the brake. Have my lap timer hardwired so it turns on with the bike. Got the Jet Prime switch gear and throttle in. Gale Speed Master. And then Vortex brake lever guard. All of that connected through on the stock wiring locations. Kind of cleaned it up how I could. Hopefully we don't have any issues with this if we ever go down on the driver or rider side of the bike. Got the K-Tech manual steering dampener. Still retaining the stock dash and the stock wiring loom. Here's the Cormoto brake lines right here, splitting right here, going down to each caliper. Each caliper got some SBS DS2 pads in there, some WRS caliper coolers or brake pad coolers. See how those do. Hopefully we don't experience any brake fade. If we do, I've got an idea to put some brake duct coolers on here. Safety wired titanium pinch bolts, titanium bolts on the calipers as well. Got the K-Tech DDS cartridges in the fork tubes. Got a Evil Tech, I believe, oil guard. It's a little bit more dense than stock. RNG radiator guard, just to keep rocks, debris, tar from damaging our radiator. 2-bar Graves coolant cap, just for higher pressure. Samco silicone hoses all around. Vortex frame sliders. Got GB Racing engine covers all around the bike. Safety wired the oil fill. The oil drain down here, if you can see that. Safety wired the fill and the bleed and the drain plug for the coolant. Got a 3/4 Yoshimura system. Retain the stock headers. They're titanium from the factory, so good enough for me. Let's see, no modifications to the engine. Cormoto brake lines, again in the rear. Vortex rear sets. This is a ABS delete as well. Got K-Tech's TRDS through rod rear shock. Anxious to see how that goes. Got the rear brake caliper safety wired. I have you can kind of see the bolt here, and there's one on the other side, but a captive rear caliper so that we can have easier tire changes. Obviously have my Pitbull TRS system on here ready for it to go on the trailer. On the undertail, just a rear brake light. Got a chain keeper here for, again, easier tire changes. Vortex gearing. I have a gold master link on here because I messed up the black one that came with this chain. I usually like to run gold chains, I just think they look better. But this was the only one that Vortex had in stock at the time for a longer length, so I just switched this out for the stock 114 tooth. I went with 116 tooth just to lengthen the wheelbase here. We were on a stock wheelbase and it was quite short. These R1s like to have a longer wheelbase and they'll handle a lot better, be a little less wheelie prone, so definitely wanted to get that in. RNG chain protector. Retain the stock rubber chain guard, took off the actual plastic cover. We have a GYTR ECU bracket here to protect our ECU. Again, GB Racing covers, safety wire, the oil filter. Going back up top, Vortex keyless gas cap. Got the tank extender as well with some easy grip tank pads. Little foam seat. Graphics are by Chris at Drippin' Wet. Turned out really awesome. We'll see the full body work on it in a second. I won't do any big revs for you guys. It's kind of late at night, but we'll go ahead and turn her on and fire her up just so you can hear it. Sounds like a normal R1 because there's nothing special about it other than the exhaust. In case you want to see the rain light work, our switch is right here on the side, which illuminates green when it is on, making it nice and easy for at least me to see if it's on or not. I just kind of look down by my leg. If we need that, hopefully we don't. R1 1000 on a wet track doesn't sound a whole lot of fun to me, but we'll see how it goes. What else? As far as things you can't see, I forget what I have in there actually. It's either a DNA or a K&N race air filter. I did all of the emissions deletes as far as the AIS system and the fuel evaporation system. Those are all taken off. Tune is by Baus Racing, but essentially that is the extent of the build. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, we're ready to go racing. Let's put the clothes on real quick just so you can see the final product. All right, and there we go. Fairings on. We'll see how well this rattle can DIY paint job holds up over the season. I'm not very hopeful, but I think it turned out pretty sick. The 1998 retro R1 theme. I'm digging it. All right, that'll do it. Thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned for some riding videos and seeing how we get on this season.